In a Maya village, a 12-year-old girl woke up on spring break and immediately started washing the breakfast dishes. No one asked her. She did it because she wanted to. Welcome to Whispering Pages. If you are here just for the summary, skip to the next chapter. For the rest of us, let's ease in. Let the day go. What you hear just before sleep settles deeply. Tonight we are with Hunt, Gather, Parent by Michaeleen Doucleff, an NPR journalist and mom who traveled to 3 ancient cultures. She went to learn how the world's most peaceful parents raise children. Published in 2021. So let's begin. Get comfortable. Close your eyes if you would like. And let's whisper through this one together. Michaeleen Doucleff was a chemist, then a journalist at NPR, and then a mother. And for the first 3 years of raising her daughter Rosie, she felt like she was failing. Rosie had tantrums that escalated into hitting and biting. Some mornings, the author left the house with a red handprint across her cheek. By the time Rosie turned 3, she was lying awake at 5 in the morning, dreading the moment her daughter would wake up. She had gone through parenting books. She had tried authoritative approaches. She had experimented with every strategy she could find. Each one worked for a week or 2, and then it didn't. What she had not yet considered was that the advice itself might be the problem. In the spring of 2018, she traveled to a small Maya village in Mexico for an NPR story about children's attention spans. She expected a quick assignment. She left with a question that would reshape her entire career. In the village, she met Maria, a mother who ran a busy household with a calm that seemed almost impossible. Maria made fresh tortillas every day from stone-ground corn, cared for multiple children, and never seemed frazzled. Even when she had to redirect a child, her voice stayed even and her face stayed relaxed. Then one morning, Maria's 12-year-old daughter, Angela, stepped out of her bedroom during spring break. She walked past both her mother and the visiting journalist. She found the dirty breakfast dishes, and she started washing them. No one had asked. There was no chore chart on the wall. She simply saw what needed doing, and she did it. When asked why, she answered softly, "I like to help my mother." The author flew home from Mexico asking a different question. Not how do I fix my child, but what has Western culture forgotten? The answer, she found, was a great deal. 3 psychologists at the University of British Columbia spent years comparing research across cultures worldwide. Their conclusion was striking. Western people, including children, are among the least representative populations one could study for understanding human beings in general. They gave this culture an acronym, WEIRD. Western, educated, industrialized, rich, and democratic. And when they looked at parenting specifically, the Western approach was one of the strangest outliers they found. Anthropologist David Lancy reviewed decades of research across 6 continents. He found roughly 40 to 50 things Western parents routinely do, and no other culture on earth does them. Many of these practices made parenting harder. Many went against children's natural instincts. How did this happen? It starts with the collapse of the extended family. For most of human history, children were raised by a whole network of people: grandparents, aunts, uncles, older cousins, neighbors. That network has largely disappeared in the modern West. For the first time in 200,000 years, many parents are doing this essentially alone. Historian John Gillis called it absurd. 2 people, he wrote, are doing all the work of what multiple people are charged to do. Into that vacuum came experts. and some of what they offered had surprisingly thin origins. The push to fill homes with educational toys came not from developmental research. It came from the Industrial Revolution, which made cheap, colorful, mass-produced toys available for the first time. Experts said play was now essential. Parents bought toys. And over time, toys became indispensable. The instruction to constantly stimulate and teach children at every moment arose from Cold War anxiety. When the Soviet satellite Sputnik launched in 1957, a national panic spread. Experts told mothers it was their job to keep their children's environments challenging and ever-changing. Every walk in the park became a science lesson. And the pressure to constantly praise children came from a self-esteem movement in the 1980s. The data backing it was, by most accounts, flimsy. But the advice stuck. And Western parents have been trying to maintain a child's self-esteem ever since, with exhausting and largely unrewarded effort. The result is a parenting model built not on thousands of years of tested wisdom, but on a handful of anxious decades. And there has always been another way. Michaeleen went to find it. The Maya village of Chancajal is in the middle of the Yucatan Peninsula. The families there live modern lives, smartphones, school runs, Facebook. But the way they raise children has been honed across generations. And the center of it is a single Spanish word, acomedido. It describes a kind of voluntary, spontaneous helpfulness. It is what happens when a child notices what the family needs and pitches in without a prompt or a reward. It is what Angela showed when she washed the dishes on spring break. The key insight is how it is learned. Not through chore charts. Not through sticker systems. Not through lectures about responsibility. It is learned by being included. Psychologist Suzanne Gaskins has studied Maya families for more than 4 decades. Maya parents do not organize child-centered activities. They do not arrange special enrichment outings or schedule educational play. Instead, they invite children into the adult world. And the adult world turns out to be all the enrichment a child needs. A mother grinds corn and her daughter watches. A father repairs a bike and his son sits nearby. The child is not instructed. The child is not entertained. The child just belongs. This belonging does something that no sticker chart can replicate. It gives the child what the author calls a team membership card. Children are hardwired to want to cooperate. They want to belong to a group and contribute to it. But this motivation only works if they actually feel like members of the group. When we fill children's lives with child-only entertainment and activities designed just for them, we quietly send a message. We tell them they are exempt from the family's work. And over time, they stop wanting to do it. Maya parents do the opposite. Children come to the market. They sit at the workbench. They help with whatever is happening, however imperfectly. Psychologist Lucia Alcala interviewed children in these communities about why they helped around the house. Several answered simply, "I live here, so I help." Once a child has their membership card, the question becomes how to keep them motivated. And here the Maya approach diverges sharply from the Western one. Maria was making tortillas one afternoon. Her 5-year-old, Alexa, came over to help. Her little fingers were clumsy and her tortillas came out misshapen. Maria did not stop her. She did not swoop in to correct the technique or fix the work. She let Alexa try. When Alexa got tired and ran outside, Maria did not push her to stay. When the older daughter, Jelmy, came in later and eventually made a tortilla that was nearly perfect, Maria did something remarkable. She said nothing. No good job. No that's amazing, honey. No praise at all. Across the entire time the author spent in the village, she almost never heard a parent praise a child for a specific task. What she observed instead was acknowledgement. Acknowledgement is not the same as praise. Praise evaluates. It tells a child you did well. Acknowledgement accepts. It tells a child, through action rather than words, that their contribution matters. When Maria put Alexa's misshapen tortilla on the skillet without commenting, she was acknowledging it. She was saying, what you made is real. It counts. There is a practical reason praise can backfire. When children receive constant verbal rewards for specific tasks, they start competing with siblings for parental approval. That competition erodes cooperation. But when praise is rare, the competition fades. Maya's siblings, the research suggests, cooperate far more readily than their Western counterparts. The author tested this at home with Rosie. She invited her daughter to help make kebabs for a dinner party. The first time, she tried to redirect Rose's strange design and the whole effort ended in tears. The second time, she said nothing. She let Rosie make whatever she wanted. Rosie started watching what her mother was doing. She adjusted her own work. They moved alongside each other, quiet and easy, until Rosie got tired and went back to coloring. No argument. No crying. Just the uncomplicated pleasure of working together. The Maya formula for raising helpful children is built on 3 steps. Practice the behavior by giving children real tasks alongside real adults. Model it by including children in the actual work of life rather than a child-friendly version of it. Acknowledge their contribution by accepting their effort without interrupting or redirecting it. That is it. And it turns out to be quite enough. In the 1960s, a young anthropologist traveled to the Canadian Arctic, far past the Hudson Bay. She went there to live with an Inuit family through a brutal winter. Her name was Jean Briggs. She was adventurous, smart, and by her own later admission, not always easy to be around. The family she joined, Alak and Inutiak, were extraordinarily kind to her. They taught her to fish, shared their food stores, and let her sleep in their igloo under caribou blankets beside their 2 daughters. Jean had intended to study shamanism. What she ended up documenting became some of the most influential fieldwork in the history of psychology. The family never lost their temper. Not once. Not when the fishing line broke. Not when a pot of boiling tea spilled across the igloo floor, melting the ice beneath it. Not when Jean herself sulked, snapped, or acted in ways she later described as crude and impulsive. The adults absorbed these moments with quiet steadiness. Then they moved on. Jean wrote later that in Inuit culture, losing emotional control was considered a sign of immaturity. Adults were supposed to be calm. Not because they felt nothing, but because self-regulation was the mark of a grown person. When Michaeleen arrived in the tiny Arctic town of Kugaruk with 3-year-old Rosie, she arrived as something of a mess. Rosie threw a box of granola bars at her in the grocery store. She lay down in the middle of a dirt road and screamed. The townspeople watched. And everywhere around her, the Inuit parents seemed completely unruffled. No urgency. No raised voices. No scolding or negotiating. Children ran everywhere, and yet the town felt calm. She had not witnessed a single toddler tantrum besides Rose's since arriving. The first lesson was this: you respond to a tantrum with calmness. Not because you have perfected yourself, but because children's emotional states mirror those of the adults around them. When you stay calm, the storm has nowhere to go. It fades. Inuit parents use several tools in place of commands and yelling. One is what the author calls the look. Instead of telling a misbehaving child what to do, a parent channels the message into their face. Eyes wide, head gently shaken, expression clear. No words. Just a look that says, "I see what you are doing." Another is the consequence puzzle. Instead of issuing a command, a parent simply names what is about to happen. You are going to fall and hurt yourself. Then they walk away. The child is left to think. Because the adult is no longer engaged in a power struggle, there is nothing to push against. Questions are another tool. When a child hits a sibling, the parent might not say, "Stop that." They might instead ask quietly, "Who is being mean to your brother?" The child is forced to think, and usually to name themselves. The art of ignoring is perhaps the most counterintuitive tool. Not cold or punishing silence, but calm and disinterested silence. When a child whines or demands something a parent cannot provide, the parent simply does not respond. They keep their expression flat. They look away. They wait. Within seconds, the child stops, because the behavior produces nothing. The author tried this one afternoon when Rosie began whining about hunger on the walk home from preschool. She said kindly that they would stop at a store. When Rosie kept whining anyway, she said nothing more. She kept her face neutral. She rode her bike. 15 seconds later, Rosie stopped crying. She accepted the discomfort, steadied herself, and caught up. There is a deeper philosophy underneath all of this. Inuit elders say the goal of education is not to tell a child what to do. It is to cause thought. Every tool, every question, every look is designed to help the child think their way to the right behavior. Commands can be resisted. Thought cannot. Inuit parents do not address misbehavior in the moment. They wait for calm. When a child is defying a request or in the middle of a tantrum, Inuit elders say there is no point trying to teach anything. The child is too flooded. You manage the moment with as little response as possible. Then later, when everyone has settled and the mood is easy, you use one of the oldest parenting tools humans have. You tell a story. Oral storytelling is not a decoration in Inuit culture. It is a core parenting tool. Stories teach children how to behave near icy water, why they should ask before taking food, what happens when they go out without a hat. And the stories often involve creatures. The kulupalike is a sea creature that hides at the water's edge. If a young child strays too close to the ice, the kulupalike will tuck them inside his parka and carry them beneath the surface. No parent has to lecture about ice safety. They tell the child about the kulupalike, and the child stays back. The author tried this at home. When Rosie kept standing with the refrigerator door wide open, every explanation had failed. So she pointed into the fridge and said in a half-playful, half-serious voice, "There is a monster inside. If he warms up, he is going to get bigger and come for you." Rosie slammed the door faster than anything her mother had ever seen. Then she turned around, grinning, and said, "Mama, tell me more about the monster." Stories became part of their family life. A sharing monster who grows when children are stingy. A yelling monster who listens through the ceiling lights. A jimmy-jammy monster who appears at the window when children bounce on the bed past bedtime. And they worked. On Baffin Island, the author met a woman named Mina. She was a filmmaker and language teacher. She also turned out to be the 3-year-old girl Jean Briggs had studied in her second book on Inuit parenting. Mina remembered the technique used throughout her childhood. Jean had called it dramas. When a child hits someone, the parent does not yell. They simply note the consequence, "Oh, that hurt." Later, when the mood is light and relaxed, the parent stages a small playful scene. They invite the child to hit them again. If the child takes the bait, the parent performs the consequence with a hint of warmth. "Goodness, that hurt. Don't you like me?" Then they ask, "Are you a baby?" The child says no. "Do big kids hit?" The child says no. And slowly, through repetition, the child practices not hitting. Not because they were punished, but because they were invited to think through what their behavior actually does to another person. The third culture in the book lives in Tanzania, at the edge of the Serengeti. The Hadzabe are hunter-gatherers whose ancestors may have lived in that savanna for tens of thousands of years. And their contribution to parenting is built around a single idea: trust. Researcher Sheena Liu Levi counted how many commands hunter-gatherer parents issued to children per hour. The average was 3. 3 commands per hour. Western parents issue many times that number, often without noticing. And the difference in children's behavior is striking. Hadzabe children have enormous freedom. A 5-year-old might wander far from camp. She carries a baby on her back. She gathers food along the way. She manages younger toddlers with a confidence that stops visitors in their tracks. But these children are not independent. They are autonomous. And those are different things. Independence means operating apart from others, disconnected, answerable to no one. Autonomy means freedom within a web of genuine expectations. Hadzabe children go where they want and decide things for themselves. But they are also deeply woven into the life of their community. They know what is expected. They know who is watching, even when no one appears to be. When the author and Rosie fell far behind on a hunt, she felt certain they were alone in the bush. She later discovered that they, the hunter at the front, had quietly been circling back behind them the entire time. The children run free. But someone is always watching from a distance, without announcing it. And the result is something almost paradoxical. Children who have very few instructions given to them, and yet who become some of the most cooperative, generous, and confident children on earth. When the author put all 3 cultures together, a pattern emerged. And at the center of it was something her own culture had nearly lost: the village. For 200,000 years, human children were raised by a whole network of caring adults. Older siblings taught younger ones. Grandparents told stories. Aunts and uncles took children on errands. Neighbors helped during hard stretches. Scientists call these extra caregivers alloparents. And the research suggests they may be essential for children's mental health. Researcher Abigail Page followed children among the active people in the Philippines. She found that children who had more loving adults in their lives showed dramatically better mental health outcomes. Even just a couple of extra caring adults can shield a child from most of the stress the world throws at them. The author began applying this at home. She asked relatives and trusted friends to take Rosie for an afternoon. She took Rosie to work. She let other adults take the lead. A child who has a circle of loving adults to draw from does not need as much from any single one. The book offers a framework for all of this: team, togetherness, encouragement, autonomy, and minimal interference. Togetherness means including children in adult life. Not arranging child-only entertainment, but simply letting them be present while real things happen. Encouragement means motivating through acknowledgement and belonging, not through praise and rewards. Autonomy means giving children room to decide, explore, and figure things out for themselves, within a structure of genuine expectations. Minimal interference means trusting children to solve problems and manage their emotions, while staying close enough to step in when something is truly dangerous. Together, these four things replace control as the organizing principle of parenting. And what is left is not chaos. It is cooperation. Now, some honest notes. This is a book worth your time, but it asks something genuinely hard of its readers. The Maya village, the Arctic community, the Hadzabe camp. These are not environments that translate directly into an apartment in a busy city. The extended family, the physical space, the community of Allah parents. Most Western families do not have access to these in the same form. The book is honest about this, but the gap between the philosophy and daily life can feel wide. The book is also stronger on the big picture than on specific situations. It tells you to issue fewer commands and trust your child more. But if your child has sensory differences, developmental challenges, or anxiety, the picture is more complicated than the book fully addresses. Who is it not for? Parents looking for step-by-step scripts or a structured behavior plan may find it more philosophical than practical. And for parents of older children, some of these approaches work most naturally when started young. That said, the core insight is one of the most useful in parenting literature. Children are wired to cooperate. We do not need to manufacture their motivation with praise and rewards. We simply need to stop accidentally destroying it with entertainment, commands, and constant correction. Two books extend this one usefully. The Whole Brain Child by Daniel Siegel and Tina Payne Bryson fills the neuroscience gap this book leaves open. It explains what is happening inside a child's developing brain during a tantrum, and why the calm, low-stimulation approach works at a physiological level. And How to Talk So Kids Will Listen by Adele Faber fills the moment-by-moment communication gap. Where hunt, gather, parent gives you the philosophy, that book gives you the exact words. There is much more in the full book. The sections on sleep, on mornings, on raising siblings who cooperate, and on what alloparenting can look like in modern life, all worth your attention. The link to grab a copy is below, and it helps support the channel at no extra cost. Tonight, carry one idea into sleep. Your child is not fighting you. They are waiting to belong. They are looking for a world where their contributions count, where their family actually needs them, where being part of something gives their day meaning. When you stop filling every moment with instruction and entertainment and simply let them be near you while life happens, something shifts. The arguing quiets. The demanding softens. And sometimes, without a single word from you, they will notice the dishes that need washing. And they will start. Sleep well. And we'll see you at Whispering Pages for the next one.